Hello, and welcome to another episode of Wheel of Horror Hell-o-ween. This is the podcast where Joe and I are going to be covering every Hellraiser movie every day leading up to Halloween. And today we're going to be talking about 1996's Hellraiser IV Bloodline, which was directed by Kevin Yeager or Alan Smithy. Yeah, if you want to go back and listen to the episodes, they're going to be posted every day leading up to Halloween. If you want to listen to the first Hellraiser movie, that's back in 2020. It's one of our first episodes. You can find that on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. But today we are talking Hellraiser 4, and I'm your co-host Alec, and joining me again through hell is Joe Testa. Welcome back, Joe.
Thank you, sir. And let me ask, have you ever reviewed a movie directed by Alan Smithy?
We have not, that I can recall. Yes, so this is the first. And yeah, you want to explain what Alan Smithy means for people that don't know?
Sure. Yes. Alan Smithy is a pseudonym given to directors when they want to take their name off a movie.
Yeah.
And we are discussing an Alan Smithy film today. I think the only other I looked it up. The only other Alan Smithy movie I recognize is Maniac Cop 3.
Yeah.
I have seen Maniac Cop 1 and 2. I don't think I've seen 3.
I didn't even know they made one or two or three. I've heard of the first one, but yeah, so for anybody we just recorded this episode. It did not record, so now we are redoing it. So we're gonna probably be a little bit of a quicker episode than we just did, which really sucks because I thought we had a really great episode there for that. But yeah, so this is Hellraiser 4. I liked it. I did. I'm glad that people always say these movies get really shitty, and I am glad that I'm still enjoying this. I know you're a little bit partial to this, having seen it at the New Bev a couple months ago.
Yes, and you could have been there for that. It was a double feature, slashers in space. It was Jason X and Hellraiser Bloodline. You were there for Jason X. It was a lot of fun. I stayed for Hellraiser Bloodline. It played not quite as well as Jason X, but it was fun to see on the big screen. And I should say that I did see Hellraiser Bloodline on the big screen during its original run with my poor grandfather, who I believe just fell asleep. I looked over at him at one point and he was just like, I'm done.
It's so yeah, because it's funny because these movies, they don't seem like the typical slasher movie. So your grandpa might have been like more vigilant. If it's like, okay, I know these are that Friday 13th, maybe there's a part where I might be like, okay. But for this movie, for him to pass out,
Yeah,
anything could happen. I mean,
yeah.
graphic torture, a lot of sex. This one didn't have nudity though. Did it?
Briefly, I think we get a little glimpse of Angelique when
You're
she's like
right.
seducing Adam Scott.
You're right, because in the third one, that one girl had her boobs
Mm,
covered the whole time.
yep.
So yeah. Adam Scott, he is in this one, which is
hmm
nice. But yeah, you seeing it in theaters, especially for like the Jason X kind of double feature. I didn't really think of it because yeah, that this one takes place in space too, just like
hmm
Jason X, and I never really put that together. But yeah, I mean this one it's three movies kind of in one.
hmm
It goes into the 1700s where we get to see the creation of the lament configuration, takes place in 1996 in modern times, and then in the future in 21, 26, something like that.
hmm
And yesterday in the episode, I had said, so what is the building just going to be made out of like lament configuration now? Because at the end, the girl puts the lament configuration into cement and then it becomes a building. And then in this movie, we continue with that building.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool. Like I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate that these first four movies do have somewhat of a pretty tight, I mean, there's the inconsistencies, but a pretty tight continuity. We do have the same writer here as we had in the last two movies, Peter Atkins. He worked on this story with Clive Barker, and it is a very ambitious story, especially for kind of a low budget horror movie. But what really fascinates me about this movie is the behind the scenes disaster. We talked about Alan Smithy. This movie was directed by a guy named Kevin Yeager,
Right.
who is kind of a special effects legend. He worked on the Chucky movies, the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, And I believe this was his first and last director's assignment,
Yeah.
which is too bad. But I will say, I respect the guy for, kind of sticking to his guns and taking his name off the movie because it's just not what he signed up to do, And if you, I know more about the writer's point of view. I haven't heard Kevin Yeager talk too much about what he went through, but I've heard the writer talk about his experience, and it sounds like an absolute nightmare. Everyone loved the script. I heard the script is amazing. I want to read it one day,
Yeah.
but it just slowly morphed into something else and became, something that they didn't recognize it anymore. But that being said, we are left with, a fairly entertaining horror movie.
Yeah. And remember tomorrow when we talk about Inferno, me saying that what's his name? Pinhead showed up too early in this movie, and this movie was too long. That was the criticism of Bob Weinstein. So he's like, I want Pinhead in the beginning,
Yep.
and it's got to be much shorter. So just remember that for tomorrow.
Yep. Will do.
So yeah, I mean, the space scene is basically like the framing device where it starts off in space and this random kind of shaved head guy recalls Pinhead using a robot, so he's the one that actually physically turns the Lament configuration. It's like a virtual reality robot basically, and it blows
Mhm.
up. And we were talking about this on the last time we recorded, but it kind of contradicts the idea of it because in the second one, they use that little blonde girl to call Pinhead or whatever, and then Pinhead's like, "Wait, we don't get called by hands, we get called by desire," and it
Mhm.
definitely kind of contradicts that in this because the robot called him,
Yeah.
but whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
that occurred to me too. And I should mention, I've seen this movie in the past calendar year. I've seen this movie
right.
three times.
Yes.
Once, once at the New Bev, once for this recording, and then immediately after I watched it, I watched the work print version, which unfortunately is not Kevin Yeager's director's cut. That will never be. He never really completed it. But they have this work print that is mostly footage. From the theatrical cut, but arranged differently. And it was a really interesting viewing experience because it doesn't start with the space stuff that
Yeah.
bookends the movie. It starts in France in the 1700s with the making of the box. And for me, that just felt right. That just felt a little cleaner. It just felt like, yeah, this is how we should be starting this movie. Like, show me how that box was made.
Hmm. Yeah, I know. Yeah. It sounds like it would make more sense, and it definitely, if you like these movies, you would probably just walk into this movie like, I mean, you already do that because they're in space. You're like, what the fuck? But you probably would still be like, where are we going with this? But it would make more sense because at least you're seeing the lament configuration being made in that opening scene. So, like, I don't know. Yeah, I think it would have been interesting to see it that way.
Yeah, I always kind of dug the beginning of this movie, the
Yeah,
theatrical cut,
yeah,
until I watched the work print.
yeah.
And there was just something simpler and kind of, I don't know. I felt like maybe I didn't need the kind of uh, exposition and outer space stuff right up top.
Mm.
I think, yeah, I thought it was just a better choice for me.
Yeah, I mean, and the 1700 stuff is awesome.
Mhm.
I think it's very, especially when they're raising Angelique, it's just very cool. I mentioned it was kind of like Frankenstein a bit, where they've got this peasant girl and Adam Scott's there and he kills her and he's got his like, Emperor Palpatine leader guy who's into the occult stuff, and he's the guy that buys the lament configuration from this toy maker. And the toy maker is just a nice normal guy named John Lemarchand or whatever, and he's
Mhm.
got a new baby on the way and he's got a wife and he's just like trying to make money. So he sells this lament configuration to this occult leader. And yeah, so they kill this peasant girl, turn her into a demon. And the rule is this demon is your slave, basically. But if you get in the way of hell and what hell's plan is, then the demon can turn on you and do whatever it wants.
Mhm.
So Adam Scott's like, all right, sweet, I'm gonna kill my leader, and this is my slave now, and I'm also gonna kill the toy maker too because why not? So everybody dies, and then it cuts to the 90s, and yeah, it's the same guy, so it's the same actor that plays the same character in all three of the timelines, and he's got a wife, and you recognize the wife, I'm sure.
Nightmare on Elm Street 2.
Nightmare on Elm
And
Street
that
2.
makes sense because Kevin Yeager did, I don't think he worked on the first
Oh,
Nightmare. He worked on part two. He gave Freddy that really great look he has in part two. So it
yeah.
makes sense he must have known her from that movie.
Oh, that's a good yeah, yeah, I didn't put that connection in there. You're right. Yeah, and then they have a son, and you were saying the son is from which movie? Oh,
Yes,
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
he played Danny Torrance in the
yeah,
1997 version of The Shining.
yeah. So Stephen King loves this kid. He's just like, this kid is exactly what I wanted. But yeah, so he's got the bloodline continues, and John Merchant in 1996 is an architect, and he's a very successful one. He built the building from the end of three and the one that we're in this movie. And he's being given an award. So he's on this magazine cover, and the cover somehow gets to France. And Angelique sees it, and she's like, "I need to go to America." And Adam Scott is still alive, which I think is pretty cool. And he's like just like drinking himself to death because he can't die or whatever, but he just keeps getting shit faced. He's like, "You're not going to America." She's like, "Sick. Now you're in hell's way. I get to kill you." So she kills him, gets out of there, and comes to America. And yeah. It keeps kind of cutting back to the future a little bit, where he's explained the future John Merchant is explaining to Rimmer, this woman, one of the military people, and she's explaining to her like, yeah, so like my family's been involved in this forever, and now I have to end it, which is kind of cool because like the technology was never there until
Mhm.
this point to actually be able to pull something like this off.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so we were talking about it like the reason that Angelique she's doing this because she needs to end the bloodline of the guy that can kill her, because the toy maker in the 1700s figured out, okay, I built the thing that can open the portal to hell, I also can build the thing that can close it. So he's not able to do it because the technology is not good enough, which is kind of weird. It's like I can open the gate but I can't close the gate.
Mhm.
It's kind of
Yeah.
whatever.
Honestly,
So
I think you talking this out is helping me understand this movie a lot better, even though I've watched it like twice in the past couple of days and three times in the past year.
no, I mean, yesterday was the first time I saw it, and I genuinely, I was very interested the whole time.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, so we were talking about on the last time that the motivation of Pinhead is a little bit confusing in this,
Yeah.
because he gets called back by Angelique in the 90s, but you're like, why is he
Mhm.
here? What does
Yeah.
he care?
And we also kind of debated how he knows Angelique,
Right, right.
but we both kind of decided there must be some kind of explanation. Like Peter Atkins and Clive Barker must have considered that. So we're gonna give him a pass. It's not a gigantic plot hole.
Yeah, because the contradiction that we figured out is basically Angelique has been enslaved to Adam Scott since like 1796 or whatever. But then in 1996, 200 years later, Pinhead, when he comes out, he's like, "You look different, princess." And so they know each other. And you're like, well, how would they know each other if Angelique hasn't been in hell and Pinhead became Pinhead in 1920? So it's kind of interesting. But it also, I was thinking about this too. We didn't talk about this. What if Pinhead is just like an eternal demon
Hmm.
that takes different forms, you know?
Something I kind of considered myself. Yeah.
Yeah, like maybe he's just using Elliot Spencer's like this vessel for
Right.
this
Right.
period of time. I
Yes.
don't know. We're filling in a lot of blanks,
Yeah,
but
that's very interesting. Yeah, honestly, all of this might have had, an explanation because we are talking about a movie that had literally, pages and pages torn out of it and
yeah.
rewritten and put back together again. I mean, when we were talking about doing this series, talking about this movie was one of the reasons I wanted to do it because it is such a fascinating disaster. I was also on the Halloween 6 episode, and it was a lot of the same players involved in that. Bob Weinstein, Joe Chappelle, the director of that movie, he came in to do the reshoots of this
Right,
movie
right.
once Kevin Yeager walked. So yeah, this movie is on the short list of just kind of real horror movie train wrecks. So it's kind of a miracle that we ended up with something as coherent as it is.
Yeah, I mean, everybody always says these movies start to suck after the second one. I have yet to agree. I don't know. I like the continuity. I like Pinhead. I think I can already tell one of the criticisms is that like they don't know what to do with Pinhead in the movies. I've heard that about like the later ones, and I kind of feel like that in this one too. I feel like Angelique could have been the only Cenobite really, and it would have been okay. But I think people are just like, nope. Pinhead is Hellraiser. We saw what happened with Michael Myers in Halloween 3. We're not letting this happen. Oh, yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah, so if you're only listening, Joe is holding up his Fangoria magazine with Angelique on the front, and she's a sexy Cenobite. Um,
And she is a pretty great Cenobite. You know, we get a couple of
yeah,
Cenobites in this movie. We'll get more different Cenobites throughout this series. And I think she's a real memorable one. Unfortunately, she doesn't take her Cenobite form until the very last act of the movie.
yeah, and they also just forget about her. Like they're
Hmm.
just like, oh yeah, yeah, she died. You know, she's just not there anymore.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, this movie we get Pinhead, obviously, we get Angelique, and then we have a little chatter dog. So Pinhead has a little dog now. I did like the line where Pinhead said he's like feeding him a dove or something like that, like something fucked up. And then he's just like, how about something that screams? Or like, so I'm gonna feed you something that screams next. And the dog's like, hell yeah. Um, so yeah, so and then also the last new Cenobite are these security guards, these twin security guards who just walk in on Angelique and Pinhead just like talking, and they're like, okay, so Pinhead just turns them into like a Siamese twin, basically like mushes their heads together, and yeah, that's it. I don't know. We don't really get too many. I miss the old Cenobites.
Yeah.
I wish that was this movie a little bit where it was like Pinhead's mission to get his old company back or whatever, not like just I don't know, he just kind of feels like he's settling for whoever's around.
Yeah, there's some clown Cenobites in these past two movies.
Yeah, yeah. So he's got mushed up security guard head guy. Angelique's cool, but he didn't make Angelique's, but whatever. And then I like the dog. I don't know if he made the
Mhm.
dog, but yeah, so then the 90s, Pinhead figures out like, oh, I got to get his child, like because that's the bloodline or whatever. So I'll use that as bait basically or leverage to get John Merchant in 1996 to build this massive lament configuration out of the building that he built that'll be a permanent portal to hell. So that's happening. Angelique's like, I gotta kill this guy. I don't know. You were saying too, like the motivation of the characters is a little confusing.
Yeah,
Um,
what Pinhead wants and how he's going about getting it, I'm just a little unclear about because he does want something from Merchant, but just ends up killing him in a cool effect. You know,
yeah.
I actually like this whole scene of kind of their houses morphed into you know, a very kind of Hellraiser looking labyrinth, and the wife and kid are getting chased around by the dog, and it all culminates with Merchant getting his head chopped off, and Pinhead laughing maniacally, even though I thought he needed Merchant, but I guess
Yeah.
he knows that his bloodline continues, and he'll get it from his ancestor, whatever it is he needs, opening up the gates of hell permanently.
Yeah.
That's
No, that's a cool idea though. Yeah, that like only the technology of the time can really be appeal. So that kind of means that Pinhead has to look out for John Merchant's kid and be like,
mhm.
you better fuck. Like you better have a kid because like I need your, it's gonna
Yeah.
be a couple hundred years until I need the technology. So he's got to ensure the bloodline actually continues.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, but I did mention the last time we recorded this, sorry to keep saying that, but the scariest scene to me was when Pinhead does go to the house of John Merchant when he's like, I'm gonna go take the kid, and you just see the mom like run around the stairs and look down, and Pinhead's just got his hand on the little boy's head, and he's just like, what a little cute boy, or something
Hmm.
like that. And that scene was just terrifying to me because this woman doesn't know what's going on. Like she's just like
Yeah.
she hears her son screaming or something, right?
Yeah, it's a really startling image.
Yeah,
We mentioned you mentioned in the Hell on Earth episode when we see Pinhead in kind of outdoors and stark lighting. It's like
yeah,
it's a bit jarring.
yeah,
And yeah, like I've spoken before in previous episodes how I do prefer Pinhead presented in a certain way with a certain amount of kind of gravitas. But I felt the same thing. I was like, oh, it's kind of startling.
I just, yeah, like if she knew who Pinhead was, it would still be scary. But it's like the fact that she's the first time she's seeing anything, she doesn't know
Yeah,
anything's going on, and all of a sudden this dude with just fucking pins in his head has got her kid, and it's got like a gash in his chest. You're like,
yeah.
I don't know. That lady was not acting like how she should have acted. She should be like, Jesus fucking Christ, what are you? Um, but yeah, so then basically, yeah, you already said John got killed in the 90s. Angelique gets sucked back into the lament configuration, and then we don't really know what happens for the next like 150 years, basically. And then it's 2126, and John Merchant's great great grandson or whatever is on the ship, and he's just like, you guys gotta let me out of here. I have to kill these demons. You guys need to get off the ship because there's this random group of space marines that just come on the ship and they're just like, John Merchant, you've been wasting our time. We're coming to get you. And he's like, because basically he's been building the space station that is the anti-lament configuration that can close a portal to hell and kill these guys, hopefully forever. Um, and then, yeah, the movie kind of just turns into Alien for like 10 minutes.
Mhm.
Each Marine gets killed off by Cenobites for the last, like, yeah, 10 minutes or so.
Yeah. And
Um,
I think the outer space effects are pretty passable,
yeah.
not bad. And I do like I dig the kind of interior. It is very alien, but I dig the kind of dark interiors of the space station. I told you I much prefer that to the kind of garish look of Jason X.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's too it just looks dirtier,
Hmm.
grittier in the
Yeah.
in this and yeah, like Alien 3 or any Alien movie really.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's so bright and well lit and like Jason X and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so then we kind of get, yeah, this was something that I liked specifically about this one. It was the final battle. It felt like an actual, like we defeated Pinhead and it was
Hmm.
like justified and it actually, makes sense.
Hmm.
I did like that. So basically, John Merchant and Rimmer, who have known each other for like an hour, I don't know, she's like, I love you and I won't let you die. And he's just like, all right, well, fuck. All right. I'll figure a plan out. I won't let myself die. So his plan is to teleport, which or not teleport, hologram, which is pretty
Yeah.
cool. He uses technology of the time, which you'd think Pinhead would know about, but I guess
Right.
not.
Yeah. Part of me thought that, and part of me was like, nah, you know what? I kind of dig this. He
Yeah,
tricked them, like
yeah.
Kirsty tricked them too, kind of in the first one. But
She's like, I
you
have a
know,
picture. Or
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so Pinhead he gets tricked by the telegram or telegram, the hologram. And yeah, so Rimmer and John Merchant are just like sucks to suck. They
Mhm.
activate the lament configuration. It just like throws Pinhead up against the wall. He's like really getting messed up. His face is like burning a hole and he's just like, "Damn you, John Merchant." And then that's it. It
And
blows
then
up and yeah.
Bob Weinstein is like, cut to credits. I ain't paying for any more of this shit.
Yeah. Yeah, seriously, the ship just flies away, like I guess back towards Earth, and
Yeah.
you're like, cool, nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, not a bad movie. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
people. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm going into this franchise with such low expectations that they're all
Mhm.
exceeding them, you know?
Yeah. I think that helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one I've always found, entertaining but frustrating. It's a movie that I feel like I could see glimpses of a much better, more ambitious movie that could, stand toe to toe with those early movies, maybe. But I'll always have a soft spot for this era of horror movies, especially Dimension films. The pre-Scream Dimension films. I love post-Scream Dimension films also, but these pre-Scream ones like this, Halloween 6, The Crow City of Angels, all movies produced by Bob Weinstein that had disastrous productions. Um, they all have a similar feel that just brings me back, and I'm just such a sucker for it. So, yeah, I mean, this one, I give it a pass.
No, it's definitely a special time, and they all do have that similar feel for a reason, I guess. But it's still great, and yeah, I definitely I'm a fan. I enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to finding out when the ball drops and when I'm like, fuck, all right, fuck these movies. That moment will happen. I know it's coming,
Yeah,
but I'm
yeah.
not there yet.
No, I think we got a good thing going. We got some momentum. Let's keep going. Inferno, bring it on.
And really quick, last thing. I had mentioned that I love the posters for these movies. I distinctly remember this poster, and there's something I want to mention in the third episode or the third movie. The poster that they released was actually different than the one that was on the box and the actual movie poster. But it was like Pinhead like coming in from the side, and he's like this evil look in his face. That's the original one, yeah, the one Joe's
Mhm.
showing right now. And the MPAA was like, nope, this is too terrifying for a movie poster. We're not letting you do this. So then what they did is they just took the original Pinhead face from the original first movie and they put it in front of Manhattan and then they submitted it again and they're like, nope, this is too terrifying. You got to get rid of it. And they're like, this is literally the same thing you already said was okay the first time. So they're like,
Yeah,
fine, then you can do it.
yeah.
So,
Typical
anyways, yeah,
MPAA shit. I told you that when this movie came out on video, um, I went to the video store and first of all, they never gave me any of their merch, like their posters. I would
yeah,
always ask. They always said they had to give them back to wherever they got them.
yeah,
But occasionally they would have little standees or something on the checkout counter, and they had essentially it was like an oversized cardboard, VHS um, stand up of the poster art for Hellraiser Bloodline, and
yeah,
they gave that to me. They let me have it, and this thing was
yeah.
awesome. I wish I still had it. I have so much from those years, but this thing was made of flimsy cardboard, so.
I wonder why they let you have that one.
Yeah, I don't know. That stuff probably
Like,
went right in the garbage, So
like give it to that
this
kid who's always in here.
exactly. Yeah, he's always asking. Give him something.
Oh man. Well, yeah, so I guess I don't know. Do you have any last minute thoughts?
No, I mean, again, yeah, like I do think we are kind of descending a bit. We'll do a
Yeah.
proper ranking,
Yeah.
but I do think these are all recommendable movies so far. So
Yeah.
let's keep it going.
Yeah, for sure. You can see, Clive Barker's name is at least on the first four, so you're like, all
Mhm.
right, we're in safe-ish hands.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, well, everybody, thank you for listening in. Sorry this one was a little bit rushed. We did record one right before this on this movie, so we tried our best.
Luckily, I could go another hour talking about Hellraiser Bloodline. Let's do it.
Yeah, no, it's hey, people check it out, seriously.
Yeah.
But yeah, so thank you everybody for listening in, and we will see you tomorrow with Hellraiser Inferno. So again, if you want to listen back, we've been doing them in order leading up to Halloween, so they're on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, so you can check those out. But anyways, thanks again, Joe, and we'll see you tomorrow with Hellraiser Inferno.